You're welcome back. This is Newsfile. It's your most authoritative news analysis platform. And here on Newsfile, we put Ghana first. Go to our various social media pages and begin to tweet at us, WhatsApp, Facebook. Send us your reactions to the issues that we are raising this morning on the show. Now, let me introduce my guest to do this discussion. Joining us right here in the studio is the Honorable Inusa A.B. Fuseini. He's lawyer, MP, former MP, Tamale Central, and former Minister Roads and Highways. Thank you so very much for making time to join us, sir.
Thank you, Thompson.
Right.
Thank you. The shirt is nice.
I just looked at your
This
shirt.
is my school. The school I attended, Nalerugo Secondary School.
Nalerugo?
Yes, that's where I attended.
All right.
Yes.
Theodore Albright. He's lawyer, council member, Center for Social Justice, and head of governance, legal and constitutional affairs pillar of that CSO. Thanks for joining us, Theodore Albright. Also joining us is Haruna Mohammed. He's Deputy General Secretary of the New Patriotic Party. Later, we will have Alexander Kwamina Afenyoma King and Dr. Theo Echampong joining us for this discussion. So let's begin by way of some preliminary matters. I suppose that you have seen now that there are a number of suits. There is a suit by 5 different political parties, including the NDC, and they are in the Supreme Court and have a straightforward request from the court, but there are some issues with that. We'll let you know as well. The National Democratic Congress, the Convention People's Party, the All People's Congress, the Liberal Party of Ghana, and the Great Consolidated People's Party are in the Supreme Court. Then later yesterday, we began to see other suits also elsewhere. There is one by Agbenoto Mercy against the Electoral Commission and the Attorney General. That one is not in the Supreme Court, it's in the High Court. Then there's another one by one Ayeta. That is Ayeta Precious against the Electoral Commission and Attorney General. As I understand, these suits are being issued or filed across the country by individuals who say their rights will be affected if the Electoral Commission is not stopped from restricting the limited registration exercise to commence on Tuesday to the less than 300 district centers. That's 268 district centers. They are insisting that this must include the electoral areas. That's 6,272 electoral areas. The EC has brought this upon itself?
Yes. Samson, first of all, let me say good morning to you. A long time, 2 weeks ago I was here, you were absent. And to our co-panelists for these morning's important discussions. Samson, just a few weeks ago I was listening to the BBC, and one of the charges against Trump was a violation of rights. The people of America have a right to determine who leads them. And so when you take steps to frustrate the enjoyment of that right, you've committed a crime, and that's the violation of rights. Now, so our Constitution is modeled along the lines, in some respects, on the American Constitution. In a democracy, and that's the legal framework, if you want, the governance framework that we have put in place to regulate our affairs as a country and determine the leadership of a country. In any democracy, and especially in a multi-party democracy, the right to vote is so fundamental that every facility must be made available to prospective registrants to register to get their names captured on the register. It's so important. It's like that is your passport to determining who lists you. And mind you, in a democracy, we say that the sovereignty resides with the people. It's captured in Article 1 of the Constitution. No one has the right to foist any person on us. That is why we condemn coup d'etats. Because the leadership of coup d'etats do not spring from the sovereign will of the people. So look at how Article 42 is formulated. It starts with a mandatory injunction. Every Ghanaian, every citizen of Ghana, then it starts setting the criteria.
18 years.
Of 18 years and above.
Sound mind.
And of sound mind is entitled to be registered and to partake in public elections and referendum. So just look at how so it's a command. It's a reaffirmation of that constitutional right of a Ghanaian of 18 years and of sound mind to be registered. I've said that, and you know, in administrative law, they have always said that you don't use administrative procedures to frustrate the enjoyment of a constitutional right. Administrative procedures are supposed to give effect, to facilitate the enjoyment of that right, but not to frustrate the enjoyment of that right. In the history, let's go back to history as well. So the Electoral Commission is a creature of the Constitution. The Constitution came into being in 1992. And since 1992, practices have evolved, where limited registration is done a certain way. Again, as lawyers and as reasonable, rational human beings, because practices were done that way, we reasonably expect that they will be continued. Not so. We reasonably expect that they will continue. So there must be reasons why there will be a departure from those steps and practices developed by the very electoral management body. Thirdly, voting in a public election or referendum is a civic responsibility. But in other jurisdictions, it's actually quite mandatory. If you don't vote, they punish you.
Yes.
But in our jurisdiction, it's a civic responsibility. And that civic responsibility must be taken seriously. Because if you don't go to vote, somebody will go to vote. And that person's views will be manifested in the outcome of the elections. And that person will determine who rules you. Now, because it's a civic responsibility, and when you go and vote, you are not entitled to any remuneration, we must be mindful of cost when fixing centers for the purposes of voting. We must be very mindful. So Ghana's electoral regime is divided into polling stations. A number of polling stations which elect an assemblyman is called an electoral area. The electoral areas, a number of electoral areas come together to form a constituency.
Right.
These are the basic structures. In any polling station, the number of registered voters should not exceed 1,000. Why is that so? One, for convenience, so that you can go and vote, and vote early and go back to whatever you are doing. Two, because it's 1,000, the possibility of you knowing those who will be on the register is higher. So it goes to the integrity of the elections. Now, when you say registration should be at the polling stations, you are empowering the grassroots at the polling stations to challenge anybody who is not resident in that polling station from registering? Who is not resident in that polling station from registering? So you enhance the integrity and reputation of the elections. Now, if you are going to do limited registration, and you think that deploying your officers all over the country at polling station level, which is about 23,000 polling stations, will be an expense, what prevents you from following your time-tested tradition of using electoral areas? What prevents you? And the electoral area, for the purposes of our listeners, is the number of polling stations within an area that elect an assemblyman. That's an electoral area.
Right.
The number of polling stations. So if you want the assembly area, assemblyman's area. So if you limit it to that, there might be 4. For instance, my area in Tishigu, there are 3 polling stations plus 1 temporary polling station at the same place. That makes 4 that elected assemblyman. And it is a small area, except that the population is quite...
All right. So we are supposed to be really brief about this one, even though it's a very important matter such as that. But if you can tell me briefly, why do you think that the EC so far appears to call the bluff of all those who are pleading, civil society organizations, all the parties that have come together and say, this does not work, this is wrong? Why do you think the EC is calling everybody's bluff?
Impunity.
They must have good reason.
No, they have no good reason. They have no good reason. And I have had opportunity to tell them that when I was in Parliament, that they have no good reason. You see, the EC itself, probably it is not understanding its role. We know the Constitution says in the performance of their duty, they are not, except in accordance with the Constitution and any other law, they are not subject to the control and direction of anybody. But the EC is an abater. It's supposed to be an impartial abater. So it must win the confidence of the people.
It is certain that you people will mobilize your supporters from, you say some have to come from as far as 8 kilometers and so on.
So
is it 80 kilometers?
Yes.
Between 40 and 80 kilometers,
yes.
or 50 and 80 kilometers,
yes.
to a particular center.
Yes.
Meaning some of them will spend the whole day traveling, and they may even need to get accommodation at the place where they are supposed to register, and they may go through frustrations, and all of that is cost. But you are interested in the elections, so why don't you take that cost and get your people to go to the center and register?
The elections, the political party's interest in elections is coterminous to the interest of all citizens of Ghana. Because that is the way, the forum, the platform that we have elected to elect our leaders. So everybody must be interested in the process. If it were just political parties, some political parties will actually cease to exist. Because if they cannot raise resources to be able to move their people, they will cease to exist. In fact, and you are right, you know Pandai. Part of the Pandai constituency is around Salaga. And so you are asking the people to come to Pandai district office for the purposes of registration. They have to travel by boat across the river to Pandai to be able to do. It might take them the whole day. And so that's why we are saying, in addition to the district offices, the Electoral Commission should endeavor to extend the registration to the electoral areas. That will guarantee the integrity of the system and show accessibility. And talking about accessibility, Regulation 2 of CI 191 as amended says that the primary consideration in giving taken into consideration when the Electoral Commission is registering voters is how close the proximity of the area to the polling station, because you don't want the voters to not to know where they will vote eventually. Okay. And accessibility, is it accessible?
All right.